Do you know where EHAR is?
Downstairs. They were having lunch. That's my question.
Wait a little bit.
What?
Todd is on his way. He's sitting next to me.
Okay, we'll wait a little bit.
So where's the IRC channel to announce the
OpenStack PTG. OpenStack-PTG.
okay.
That's Brian moved out. He's getting some import error. It's config.
DR,
fix it yet?
DR agents, the BGP.
I have two config.
I don't know where.
What?
What are you changing? OVM?
Yeah.
I'm fixing the one in Neutron Engineering Routing.
Okay.
I fixed the one in OVN.
Apparently OVM also.
Networking OVM? Yeah. Or Neutron OVM.
Networking OVN.
Yeah.
It's part of the same external process.
Yeah. No, it's config, not two config. Then I break to the one on the external monitor thingy.
I'll look at it.
Well,
It's fine.
we knew it was gonna break, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a surprise.
Dude, I'm buying shit on a daily basis. And it always seems better than you.
Ready something?
We're waiting for you.
I can't. Okay. Guess we can start. Okay, let's see. Neutron.
Okay.
So, let's go over the Pike backlog and stuff that didn't land and what needs to be done for Queen still. The first thing on the list is security group logging. I think that just needs reviews, right? There's no major blockers there, is there?
So currently, first of all, so thank you for great review in Pike cycle. So our logging patch, currently I and Ang are working, and our logging patch, especially API and DB patches, has been merged in Pike cycle. However, currently agent and RPC and logging driver, well, 3 functionality patch have not been merged. And currently, I wrote in the path. So these 3 patches and CLI patches. CLI patches totally finished and waiting for the three functionality patches. And I'd like to propose that these 3 patches. I strongly hope to retrieve these 3 patches with high priority and to be merged during Queen's 1 cycle. And on the other hand, other remaining patch are for all for testing for some full stack test or test test or something. So that's functionality. These 3 functionality patches focus on Queen 1, and the other remaining testing patch is Queen 2. So yes, I'd like to suggest propose and move to change some priority is one patches. So and currently academic vendors, there is some no in my understanding there is no blocking point and need some just deploy some deflecting some comment and waiting for other quality reports.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have an issue with the using the same driver model that Facebook Trunk is using? And then
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, I wasn't sure whether there was the right model for what they're after, but I didn't know enough of the code to really judge. I think it's a great model. I wrote it.
Okay, let's come back to the discussing putting other stuff in the security groups API until after we go over some of the other stuff in the backlog. Let's see. So Trevor, is Trevor? Yeah. So the Q&Q driver, that just needs more. Did you respin it after the reviews? I guess it's been like a month now.
Yeah, I created RFE for it, and yeah, I mean the Q&Q network tech driver has been in review probably since the beginning of Pike, and then I just reassigned like a new bug to it because there's an OBS Q&Q implementation.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and that wasn't those are kind of separate. So I was just kind of raising awareness to this one is separate from that.
Okay. And I think everybody's okay with that, so that one just needs to get reviewed and merged. I don't think there's any blocking issues there. Okay. Russell, you want to talk about diagnostics? What the plan is?
All right. I'll just say that it was approved for bikes and for bike, and we never worked on it. And I plan to repropose it and complete an implementation for it.
Okay.
Just an FYI that it'll be back up on the YouTube.
Okay. The other major thing we have to figure out is the port binding information for Nova, and that kind of includes returning OSVIF objects to Nova, and then also handling multiple port bindings for like live migration.
But this is not part of this spec. The OSV part. Just about multiple.
Yeah, yeah. But just the general binding communication between Nova and Neutron. Is there anybody that's going to work on that during Queens?
So I was the one who posted that there.
Okay.
In what way we have interest to implement that
Okay.
in this cycle. And really what I'm trying to accomplish here is to know if somebody's working, yeah, and if not, then we're going to discuss how to.
I was supposed to work on it on Pike, but I don't plan to continue.
So no.
And we
The answer is no. Okay.
and it's not just spec that we landed, we also landed API ref for that, or the API definition, right?
It's
In Neutron Lib. So if we're not going to pursue that, then maybe we should revert it.
Yeah.
So that
But I think Miguel, you said that UOV is interested.
No, yeah, Miguel's gonna.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're going
okay.
to pursue it. Yeah, really. My question was who's working on it, and if nobody's working, then
And
Okay.
there's also support for OSC there and the service plugin, I think. Like not merged, but like work in progress.
So service plugin for what?
For the port binding extension. Like it's port binding extended stuff.
but it's also core plugin.
So just be part of ML2.
Yeah, I think that's currently a service plugin.
Okay.
And I think also the spec says that it's
Okay. You should probably just do it as part of ML2 because binding is a very ML2 specific thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
okay.
so whatever patches you have in progress, would you post them?
Yeah,
So does that make sense, Xiaopo? Okay, perfect.
And maybe if it would be reproposed, then it might be worth to change it from the source plugin to the ML2 because it's like defined it to be the source plugin.
Yeah. Is Ian or Sean right here? Let me see if I can ping them and get them to come join to see what the deal is with using OSVIF.
This is going to be also discussed tomorrow in the Neutron.
Okay.
In the
Yeah, I guess we'll wait for the cross project to go over the OSVIF.
I think that's waiting for that session.
Okay.
If not, I'll make sure tonight that they are aware we're bringing this up tomorrow.
Okay. Let me pull up the list. So the other thing that I think is kind of stalled out a little bit is the engine facade switch. Because Anne hasn't been able to work on this stuff.
That's a very
Recently.
good point. Yeah.
We probably just need a volunteer to finish it.
How far is it?
I don't know. We just have to grep and look for with session.begin instead of the context manager thing.
So maybe we should next week ping Anne.
Yeah.
See what
See-
where she is, and based on that, decide what's the next step.
Okay. Let me write that down here. Oh, here. Okay, let's see. What else? OVO.
It's ongoing.
Ongoing.
I can. There are a few people, but
Yeah.
some new people showed up.
Oh,
It's like it comes in cycles. You know. Old people go, new people come.
okay.
Also, Slavic wanted to help with some things, so that could be a good boost.
Okay, cool. Related online upgrades, did you want to try to deal with the...
Honestly, like at this point, I think it doesn't make sense to try to specifically target this. Just complete the migration.
Okay,
Because not enough resources.
okay. So just
Then
OVO and
it's in theory, it's not complex.
kind of depends. Keeping the APIs consistent between the two servers. Yeah. What's this? The agentless driver thing does for BGP, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Do you know what's going to happen with that?
that project is on a lifeline, I guess. We no longer have folks interested in keeping it. I mean, actually, VMware at some point, Gary at some point expressed an interest in supporting dynamic routing without agents. So VMware apparently must have functionality that underpins the Neutron dynamic routing API. And right now the implementation is tightly coupled with the agent framework, and VMware doesn't typically rely on agents. They wanted to refactor the code so that they would decouple the agent part from the API and plugin part. So I think back in Barcelona, they expressed an interest in working on that, but nothing has actually happened. Is there any way that you could potentially follow up and find out whether that dynamic routing is on VMware's roadmap, and if so, potentially resources could volunteer to take that effort forward?
Is there anything I can reference?
Sure. So if you go to the Etherpad line, where is it? Are you referring a line?
No, hang on.
Okay.
I'll put it on the Etherpad right now.
Yeah.
BGP. I'm just looking at the blue
Okay,
ones.
so yeah, we already, and yeah. So is line 156.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, I'll follow up on that. Admittedly, I'm not really familiar with that piece of work, although I know it doesn't. How much work is this? How much? Just a lot of work?
I mean, it should have been. Actually, let me see, because there may be even some code in flight. I'll post comment in the ether part, so we can move.
Okay.
We can move
I'll
on.
follow up on that.
Sridhar, do you want to give a quick V2 firewall as a service update?
Yeah, so I think where we are is with the L2 support, we are very close. I think we are, Ushiro has the patch on that for the engine. So I think we should be able to merge in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And the other thing is in terms of, when we last spoke, for the driver to go with OVS. So that's the other piece, which the patch is in, reasonable shape, but we want to get some testing done.
Okay.
And probably keep things as, stay with the current model, and this will be something that you would add on until we do a little bit more of testing with the interoperability with security.
Okay. Okay.
That's kind of where we are at. And the other thing is the dashboard patch is also pretty close to merging for the V2.
Okay. So early cleans then should be done. Okay. Cool. What is this L2 agent extensions thing that's sitting in the blueprints backlog?
Well, there was something that Thomas and Miguel, not this Miguel, the other Miguel.
I had someone.
Yeah, someone.
Are you sure?
Wasn't that like actually the spec ended up merging, but the work didn't get done.
L2 agent extensions?
Oh, I think it's about the flow manager.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
wasn't following, so I wasn't sure what to say.
Yeah, but it wasn't something that we ended up merging for.
We merged the spec.
Yeah, we merged the spec, but work.
The work is still in flight.
Okay.
David Chan, which I can see, has the handle it. I did reviews and it's been refined. I think he has spent more time on CCF recently, so I don't know the exact status. He would know. He can. No, it's probably too late.
Yeah. Okay, so it's progressing slowly, but it's moving. Slowly, but surely.
Yes, I don't know how the effort will be prioritized for Queens. So we need to ask David.
Okay.
If he thinks this will be for Queens.
He's actually
In China right now?
Yeah.
If it does land for Queens, then it would be nice to adapt some potential consuming project as well.
Say it one more time.
So if it lands in Queens, then the project that could use it, well, also lands things in Queens.
Okay. So and that project will be backed up?
SFC,
Oh.
QS, backlight driver for VPN.
Oh, that's quite a few.
I think that as a service was also in the list.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the projects that put things in the OVS rules and would like to have a more predictable interactions with the pipeline.
Excellent.
But I don't know if these projects have in mind that they could actually do such a rewrite based on the pipeline.
Go ahead. The native L2 pop is one that I wanted to do, but didn't get around to. The upgrade is something I actually wanted to ask about. What's the strategy for adding a new column to the database? We basically just can't even use it the first cycle because we can't trust the other servers to keep it up to date, right? The N-1 version once we upgrade. So if we wanted to add a new column to the database, we can't even put anything in it until whatever comes after Queens. If we added in Queens.
Well, you can, but other servers may not see that. So there should be some.
Well, and other servers
Dealing.
might not update it correctly on a port update or something, right?
So ideally, you could somehow infer the information that it was there from some other means.
Have some lookup method, but and then in that case, there's no point in putting something in the table because you risk it getting stale from the older servers, right?
No. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, unless anybody else wants to pick up that, I doubt that spec is going to go anywhere though. The native L2 pop one. The reason that had come up is I was probably have to add a column to the ports table or some table that has this tunnel termination point. The in-tree API reference, that's done, isn't it? That's all in, well. Do you know how much the API is in Neutron? Is it all there?
Not quite.
Of what?
The API reference?
For our APIs?
Definition?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not all there, but I mean, for example, I just put up a patch yesterday that had the agent API.
Oh, okay.
It's completely missing. That's the only one I'm aware of fully missing, but I've never actually done the diligence to check.
Okay.
I was trying to get all the API definitions into lib first. That's why I assumed like 30 patches for me to do that, and then when my plan was to kind of go through those and just make sure they're all accounted for the RAD once I did that.
Okay.
But I think it's in pretty good shape, but it's not 100%.
Okay. So that one I think then just makes sense. Carry over to Queens and continue finishing it. Right.
So then, is there any place to track the progress of migration? Migration?
In terms of how much the API is there?
Yeah. So what is the remaining work and what are done? I think it's better to track.
I mean, it's possible if someone wants to analyze what we have versus what we're. Someone has to do the work to come up with the missing, right? I mean, I can do that. I can put it on my list.
If not, we can create a fund or something. We can more volunteer.
What was that? I didn't catch the last part.
So you want to create a place where to track the progress? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, sure.
Create a type on what they're track to progress?
Oh, this API is already migrated to the Neutron. This is not, or this is in progress, or something. Yeah, if there is, okay, I can create.
You can create it?
Yeah.
You will create it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the online upgrade spec, should we just mark that as done then?
No, it's not done.
What needs to be done for online upgrades?
There should be some CLI support for catching up on DB changes before.
Oh, the moving the back to the tail forward. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So I'll just carry that over to Queens.
Well, just drop it in the middle because, like, I
What's
think.
between Queens and Pike?
What do you mean?
Well, I said carry it over to Queens and you said drop it in
Queens.
the middle.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Decoupling dynamic routing from Neutron mode, you know it's
That's something I totally dropped the ball on that one. And nothing has happened in the bike time frame. So if you want to beat the crap out of me up there, I'm happy to make as much crap as you want to give me.
Are you planning on working on it for Queens?
I actually started, warming up again. I've actually found 3 patches in an OVM I just posted. So I'm hopefully I may be able to get some work done in this week if people don't distract me. So stop asking me to get coffee and go to breakfast, and I can get this stuff done. Yeah. Excuses.
Just too popular.
Oh, I wish. It's not that. So yeah.
And then the Neutron Lib networking OVM, the last part there was the agents, the agent stuff, right? The
There's
OVO.
still some work to be done there because I'm going to DB and
Yeah.
there's a few things for agent and then there's the config options.
Oh, okay.
Is it, I'd like to think we could get it done in Queens, but it will kind of depend on how complex this database thing gets.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going through the list of blueprints here.
Yeah, okay.
Let's see. Quota counts. We need somebody to do the client for the quota detail usage, I think. I don't remember ever seeing any client support for that or patches for Horizon or anything like that. So we have the new quota details API that shows how many are in use, but we have no way to do it right now. No way for people to actually use it.
Who implemented it?
It was somebody from Intel, and then we ended up having to pick it up at the end. I think was it you that was respinning it at the end? Somebody.
Details.
Yeah.
No, I was reviewing.
Okay. Oh no, he pushed up the end.
Yeah, the prints.
Yeah. But yeah, so we need somebody to do the client, so some people can actually use that.
Should we ask him or her if he would be willing to do it?
If he's around, I don't know who it is. I've never met this person. It's somebody from Intel. I think it was somebody that was part of the OSC, not OSC. OSIC, yeah.
I think.
Oh, it was an
So
OSIC
is that-
person. If it's an OSIC person, Scott.
I think Prince was pushing after.
We
Yeah.
can find out. I mean, we can find out whether, since this was a copy, or at least was something that was available in other projects, it could be that there is similar code in the OpenStack client that target different services, and maybe doing the client side patch for Neutron wouldn't be that bad. It could be just like a copy and paste, changing some URLs, and so we can look at it and see how much effort it is. If it's that simple, we could some of us could knock it down quickly.
Okay. Well, so I'll carry it over to Queens
Yeah,
and
that's
then
one. Make that a
Make a
note,
comment.
yeah, and then again that could be a simple.
Was that for quota details, Kevin?
yeah.
And you said that what were you talking about, spec?
No, the client.
client.
I mean,
I
the
knew
client.
what spurred you to talk about that.
Yeah, I was looking at the spec part, the quota count spec.
Okay, because I agree with the bug for that, so I just closed it out.
Oh no, if there's a bug for it, that's good. Link to add it to the spec. There's a spec. Add a link to that bug on there, just so we can have somebody to track that specifically as well. So RBAC Keystone v3. Isn't it done? This was our change to project ID, wasn't it? Oh no,
It's like
domain
where you
aware.
can use domain instead of project. Because there's,
Yeah.
and I think the decision
This
was no
is-
change needed on Neutron side. if I
Yeah,
remember
hang on.
correct.
There was some really simple change. We didn't.
Or like it should be included in the context, the information about the hierarchy, but so far it's not there. And, should be implemented in also context library, and then we can.
Yeah, current middleware doesn't populate context for project hierarchy. I see. So this doesn't sound like it's going to go anywhere.
Just home.
At least for now. So I'll change this one to deferred then, I guess, for now. Okay, so security group logging we talked about. That's good for Queens. Just needs reviews. Subnet onboarding. Do you know what's happening with that? Did you get an update from Redip?
No, I can. He was in line.
So we have an API definition. Do we have an implementation? Yeah, API definition went into Neutron lib. Oh, yeah, you're working on
that
it.
patch is in progress right now,
Okay,
and just waiting on the release from Neutron Lib.
okay, so it's still on target for Queens, and you're working on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me and Rudy are.
Okay.
Okay. Once there's a Neutron.
Is the batch merged individually?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll post the new release refresh right now.
I haven't checked it there yet.
Yeah, and I'll do that too. I'm pretty sure now things are pretty broken because we merged that breaking change yesterday.
Okay, troubleshooting is good for Queens. Running WSGI server, I'm going to try to get this one, at least a patch posted for this one, updated from the one that I have up there in DevStack. Then we also need a change inside Neutron, I think, to be able to check environmental variables for paths to config files to load, to be able to load multiple config files, because the WSGI doesn't have an option to change what goes into the sysrd values. We have the separate Neutron RPC binary that works last time I tested it, and so it shouldn't be too big of a change. But yeah, I should be able to get this one done.
So Queens 1?
Yeah, Queens 1 for this one.
With DevStack integration, like we switch the gate.
Yeah, I want to switch the gate to it. The fetch host key from port, I don't think we ever
We never
back on that one.
No, we never got back to it.
Port forwarding API, I think though that we can discuss that in the drivers meeting. That never really got implemented or got to the point where it started.
Yeah, but we want to pursue it. Yeah.
Is there anything else during Pike that was started that anybody wants to discuss?
The gate consolidation. Never know, but we can discuss it in testing.
Okay. Okay, should we talk about the security groups API then? And extending it?
2 minutes break.
Oh, okay, let's take a quick break then. At 2 o'clock, we'll discuss changing the security groups API.
You can do multiple things at the same time, huh?
Yeah. But who will watch Zoom if I do more work? Who's this? Delete that. Here. I'll do something. It passed finally. What did you say to Jimmy? Jimmy. I didn't do before. Okay.
Why? You read nice ones? No. Why don't you read it?
You told me what you said.
Oh, that's along the line.
So now I can rebase. Oh.
Pleasure.
Thank you. No, you can't leave. Why? We're going to talk about adding features to the security group.
Oh, yeah? I can delegate to Mark. I'm sure that he has the same opinion as I do. So I'm pretty sure he can represent me very well on the topic.
No,
It's gonna be no to everything.
you can't delegate.
It's proxy no.
Wait for him to come back. I want a lively discussion.
It posts immediately. The update.
You have a change on the PTG?
Yeah.
Wait for Armando.
Another 2 minutes and then we go. Because we need to break at 3:30 for the
Yeah.
forum.
Yeah, that's still an hour and a half away, right?
No.
It's my
Oh yeah, you're right. It's at 3:30.
yeah. guess anything else we can do. Start on testing like at 2:30, and then have the picture at 3:30, and then a break until 4 or something.
Sounds good.
I'll update this.
So we need to do this testing out here.
Yeah, I also have a photo on both me for traverse program. So I just we can start the API this career like we have time.
Because they've got to
So you want
retry
to
for
start as soon as possible now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not in there here around 4:30 to 4:20.
I see what you say. So if we can move the API thing as soon as possible.
So
let's do testing, and then and let's try to do the API stuff, and then we go to it. We have plenty of time.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Armando.
Ready about what?
I didn't trust my proxy though.
Proxy posted in the lab. And now I can hear one too.
But I'm fixing the bits.
It doesn't need to be fixed.
Yeah, it's so good.
Sometimes-
It's raining.
See, that's why they have outside California.
It's only surprised.
That's shocking.
It has been a long time since it rained. It rained a bunch over the winter.
Actually, it was raining a while ago.
So you guys are still in drought?
No,
No, not anymore.
because it rained a bunch over the winter, but then it hasn't rained since then.
Sometimes it's like easy in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Drizzles in the morning? Where, in Fremont? And in San Francisco.
Well, San Francisco is always there.
The next couple of days it's going to be cooler.
It's windy.
Yeah, it's about time.
Okay, well, so should we add features to the security groups API? What were your thoughts on that?
Sure, unless it's like doesn't overlap with firewall as a service. Like if it maps there.
So deny action overlaps with firewall as a service.
If it's just about deny action, I guess I don't quite understand the justification for having that. That's how it is. So who's pushing for that?
Asaf.
Asaf is not here. He doesn't work on the project anymore. Why does he get to push anything?
Asaf told him.
Not him?
Yes.
Fine's pushing?
First time I hear.
He's pushing.
Well, maybe what you should do is do an RFE for the particular feature you want to add to the security groups API, and then we can discuss it in the drivers meeting.
After discussing, and if community has decided to permit some permit and have some security API. So that I will maybe my team will propose the RAG and maybe target is not quick, but lucky or after.
Yeah. So okay, let's step back for a second here, because I think that we're sort of omitting an important aspect in this discussion, which is that we should strive to avoid point of contention or confusion in our APIs or in our system, so that our users don't know what to do, and our end users, as well as admins and operators, they don't know what are the best practices in deploying or using certain services or offering certain services like security. So if I understand this correctly, the proposal on the table here is to introduce functionality in the security group API in such that security groups and firewall as a service become very similar from a functionality standpoint, and that ends up violating that principle where you end up creating confusion and contention from the user standpoint as well as from operator standpoint as to which option you choose. Then you can by say, okay, one solution may be more mature than other, but at the same time you say, okay, maturity is something that can be addressed with effort, time, community led community-led effort and so on and so forth. So taking that into account, what is that prompt you from proposing or raising this topic for discussion in the first place? What is that firewall as a service, as a project, or as an initiative prevents you from doing, and then you ended up like wanting to fall back on the security group API?
Nobody ships firewall as a service.
Nobody ships firewall.
That's because it's not ready. Not because we're professional. So make it ready.
That's getting there. Yeah, what is the API? Getting there. Yeah. And so we briefly talked to Fasad, Sweden and I, after the Boston Summit, and being one of the shippers. And he said it's a company decision. They don't want to pour resources into firewall as a service.
Okay.
So it's a company decision that they don't want to do that, and hence it's not going to ship to Red Hat.
So okay, so the likely scenario is to allow deny rules in security groups, having that exposed where it needs to be exposed. So in the CLI, been documented in the documentation and so on and so forth. But then is that the scope of modifications to the security group API, or is it just a starting point to go down a slippery slope? Because at some point, you want to make sure that you draw a line and say, okay, this functionality, this feature is used for this set of use cases, this feature is used for this set of use cases, and if we start...
the other one was that address sets thing recently in the security groups API that somebody wanted. Did the use case make sense?
Address sets makes more use case than denials, because then you have ordering, which has to then come in the security groups if you have deny.
And address sets, well, you're still gonna have to enumerate everything if you want to allow one subnet and block an address out of it.
Yeah, but if we allow deny rule to the security group, we need a order of rules, so that it is a bit different.
Ordering is advanced.
Yeah, and exactly. It sounds like
then you're getting closer to a firewall thing. So our vision is to provide one unique interface for L2 and L3 firewalling. And security groups only does L2, so
security groups can only do L2.
you're only on the
well, I mean, you can do L2 and L3.
So what do you mean by security groups can only do L2? I was like, they currently do 3 now.
Yeah.
Oh, next slide, please.
What do you mean by L2?
We can do on the router and on the VM. You can apply security group, firewalls on the router ports and on the VM ports. So you have one interface.
Yeah, but the rules that you specify take into account L3 concepts, like like ports and protocols. Those are not L2 concepts.
You can have useless traffic, which I mean you have to apply L3 at the port because you can have useless lateral movement that would never convert.
Yeah,
The data path would never go through the router.
Yeah, that's what we get now. That's what we want to do. We want to do east-west and north-south.
Okay, so it's layer 3 at the router, but layer 3 and layer 2 at the port is what eventually you want to get to on firewall.
Yes.
Okay.
And we have the router stuff is done, and we're still working on the VM stuff for V2.
And is there any reason why currently we don't support router ports?
No, we support router ports and firewall.
No, for security groups.
For security groups.
But if we forget about the deny route,
Yeah,
why
but,
is the router port trusted and cannot have security?
Well, it's just treated as a trusted port, so security group stuff is all skipped.
Yeah, but the question is why?
Because routers look like they're spoofing IP addresses.
Yeah.
So we'd have to rewrite the security group's code to like not do IP enforcement. You have traffic coming out of a router port that looks like it's coming from arbitrary remote destinations that looks like spoofed IPs. So you'd have to allow filtering. You have to allow the security group filtering, but not any like the anti-spoofing protection. So it could be done. It's just it's not compatible with the current.
And it would then completely duplicate what we are doing.
Yeah.
And then we had a big discussion in Vancouver many summits ago.
Yeah, but I don't know whether you want to bring that up. I mean, it's not on
What's
the
our
road.
favorite discussion because the firewall won.
But I don't know whether bringing up
Yeah.
discussions that happened gazillion years ago with totally different crowd makes any sense to bring it to the discussion now. But I generally like agree with you that I'd rather avoid creating overlap, because even if the overlap is tiny right now, as we're discussing, it sounds like that overlap can only grow bigger because once you again open the door, then once you open the Pandora box, it's easy. It's very difficult to close it. So it sounds to me that the right first step would be to properly justify or motivate why we cannot live with a denial rule in security group. It doesn't sound to me that firewall as a service is not mature, or some distro doesn't want to distribute this project in their OpenStack solution. They don't seem like enough compelling justification for us to having to deal with the contention that these feature enhancement ends up creating. Did I elaborate it well enough for you to agree with me?
Honestly.
I think we all appreciate the value of having that extra attribute in the security group API, so that you can unlock a set of use cases, and that is innocent at first glance. But what ends up coming afterwards along along the way, it's the scary part, right? Even the code itself may not look too bad, but it can very easily snowball, and you want to just be very careful that we're doing that what you're thinking of for the right reasons rather than the wrong ones. And to me, lack of maturity and desire for a vendor to avoid one piece of the puzzle in the whole ecosystem don't seem like enough from a community level standpoint. But did I get it correctly that firewall as a service is not currently distributed and packaged in OSP?
Maybe it's distributed but not supported. It's like perpetual tech.
And you have no roadmap. All right.
We're waiting for V2 to be ready, and then we'll consider.
So when V2 is ready, there is a chance I could change.
Yeah.
Okay, so all we need to accomplish is get V2 ready.
Yeah.
So on the other end, the security group API is technically speaking extensible.
Yes.
And also there's a question I don't know answer to that was raised on the mailing list. Are we supposed to support AWS compatibility? Is it like given by some technical committee?
I think there was an argument that, for instance, was relevant at the Vancouver time.
Yes, yes.
And nowadays, I don't know whether it's.
Well, JPI's making the argument. Yeah. We probably
Never supported that compatibility. We had features that were never, from day one.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that was an argument, for instance, that Sean Collins was very strongly opinionated on, and I could agree with him at some point. But then, again, for instance, since Vancouver until now, we've seen, for instance, the EC2 middleware layer for Nova getting removed. It's no longer tested in the gate. The security group API in AWS actually is wildly different from what we had initially inherited from Eucalyptus. So I'm due to like the historical events that have occurred since we had that conversation until now, it doesn't sound like that argument stands anymore. So I wouldn't look at AWS compatibility as a valid argument. And for that reason, I'm happy to extend the security group API with more features that end up, again, maybe avoiding any overlap with some other similar projects like Firewall as a Service. Now, you could argue that anything that you want to add to the security group API may end up overlapping with Firewall as a Service, which also gives you the answer that probably we should leave the API alone.
Yes. I guess the other way. We just thought one thing was if we supported longest match, then we wouldn't care about order. Longest prefix match, so only in layer 3. So you could allow something, but if you're denying, take the most specific rule and apply it if you have multiple candidates. The downside is that way IP tables rules suck because you have to write them a very specific way. But our API would not need ordering. It would just be the backend help trigger it. With that solved, that'd be a way that it had to run.
So you're thinking as an implementation mechanism to...
We could allow deny without order, but the rule would be longest match.
So the rule that must obey a specific format. That sounds too strict to me.
Well, it would take the use case of I have a set of IPs I want to allow, but I have one IP I hate.
Yeah, no, as a first iteration sounds like reasonable, but I'm pretty sure that as soon as spec ships, someone comes up and says, I want these other like use case, and then
that works for addresses, but not for port numbers, right?
You end up deferring the problem.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, then I would only be longest match. Like, no port,
Yeah, so you can't have a deny roll with a port number.
With only a port number, but yeah, you have a range of ports.
Yeah, so it's you allow port ranges, right?
Yeah. I guess you could write something weird to basically say that,
You're just deferring the
inevitable. I know. I'm just trying to find that.
I know.
Trying to be accommodating.
Well, I appreciate it. So, I guess to me the next step would be to try and take the conversation offline in a way that a wider forum of folks can chime in. Because again, it's not technically impossible. It's more of a community. The consensus must be achieved on a wider basis. And
so does that mean RFE spec type of thing?
I mean, it could be an RFE. We could start the conversation on the mailing list and have give the opportunity, the chance to contribute their thoughts. I mean, if you get a pulse in this room, it sounds like the majority of folks are sort of like not particularly warm about the idea. But ultimately, even though I despise myself for saying it right now, but there is a way in which you could potentially experiment with this idea by extending the API. You don't necessarily have to like be part of you know, the Neutron tree, and it's not like it
doesn't solve the shipping problem.
Doesn't solve the shipping problem. I mean, but I mean, shipping problem shouldn't be a community problem.
Well, then firewall as a service v2 is good.
Oh, and that's a decision that whoever has the shipping problem has to take into account in order to make the shipping decisions. But from a community standpoint, I mean, that there is no impossible hurdle to overcome to experiment with the idea. For instance, actually, at one point there was something in the Neutron tree, you know, in the API framework that prevented you from extending the security group API. And at the time, VMware didn't like that idea, and they brought up the use cases, and we lifted that constraint. So they can augment the security group API any way they see fit. It's, you know, they may have now a shipping problem. That's their problem. But we've enabled them to have the problem if they want the problem. It's not like they have to carry out like a patch. You know, I patched to the Neutron tree in order to expose that feature. So if nothing else, we've kind of like made their life a little easier. Even though like that part of the code hasn't changed for ages, even though now you're ripping it out somewhat with the beacons switch.
I don't think the issue is being able to experiment with new features. I think people want to bolt stuff onto the security group API because that's what's shipped. Isn't that the main motivation? Is that's what it's available in all the distros?
No, I know, I get it. I mean, I'm saying in luck, you know, in the absence of that, what can you do? You can augment the API. Now you have a problem where you may have to change behavior on a particular implementation. That could be OVS, OEM, Open Daylight, I don't know, I don't care. But you know, in the absence of a community agreement on how to move forward on an API, you have the opportunity as of today to slightly diverge if you wanted to. I mean, I'm not recommending it, but I'm saying it's not impossible. It's up until like 8 months ago or whatever it was, without carrying a local patch to Neutron. Okay, today you don't have to patch Neutron.
But I think people want stuff in the tree, specifically, because that's what Red Hat ships and that's what
Not necessarily. I mean, if you think about that, Red Hat is moving away from OVS and they want to go into OVM, they can do whatever they want in OVM. I mean, they don't rely on any of the security group implementation that is in the Neutron tree as of today. So they could have the extension. So they can have the extension. They can tap into whatever OVM allows you to do, and they don't have a shipping cost. They don't have a shipping problem.
That's because it's Red Hat making the change and Red Hat shipping it. The problem is he doesn't work for Red Hat. He's working on the feature. He wants it to be usable by the community. So he's targeting
And
what
for the
gets
record,
shipped.
for the record, I don't think Red Hat will go and implement its own API.
And I agree that. And I agree with that.
Yeah, we don't ship anything that's
Yeah.
not virtual screen.
Yeah, and again, I was presenting a scenario that I wasn't necessarily implying that was a likely scenario, right? Well, yeah, I know that the stance that OVN has taken is always, take what comes from Newton, and I totally praise that approach, and I hope it stays like that for as long as it's possible. I don't know. I think I've done enough of talking. I mean, I've tried to sort of like guide the conversation, but it doesn't seem like people are jumping at me and say, you know, what are you talking about? You know, it seems like somewhat there is a degree of agreement that touching that API without enough understanding of the implication is not a wise thing to do.
So Firewall v2 is landing this cycle, and the earliest that these security group changes is also this cycle. I should just focus on that. I think
that would be.
that's what I would.
The API has been there. The only thing that's not there is the VM port, the ability to apply. So that's more of an agent driver.
Yeah, but that will allow all the kind of replacements and enhancements to security groups that I've heard of these.
Yes, and maybe in fact I like to use V2.
So let's go for V2 then.
Yes, yeah.
So what's the next option? Option item. I think it's better to give an action item on this. Why?
Well, if he decides to use V2, then there isn't another action item here.
Helping
also-
V2.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would really push it.
Also, I think it's better to document our consensus or policy or on security group API. So that, as Amanda suggested, it's better to start the mailing thread or
It's not really a green slate. It's been under development for years.
First, we rejected some enhancement on security group API in the past. So
Yeah.
We need to document the background.
Yeah.
Or maybe someone can take it as an item to propose a patch somewhere, like DevRef, or maybe
So
I
we don't have to do
like
every 2
explain
years.
what's the current thinking.
I hope Firewall as a Service is merged within 2 years.
So who's going to do that?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope smashing it to really get off that. You even have Horizon runs.
Yeah.
You can demo it.
Okay.
So are you clear on the next steps today?
Talk about testing.
You're watching, like you're looking at me.
Yeah.
You expect something.
The dealing with the jobs that you mentioned you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So the several cycles we discussed how we will simplify our gate setup, maybe reduce like the number of jobs, and also finally move to voting DDR HA job as an overarching one. And we never seemed to deliver that. There were multiple attempts to make it happen. Brian was working on. Anil was looking at that one time. So there's feels like maybe not enough resources to actually make it happen. I was thinking maybe L3 sub-team can actually make it priority for them, especially since there are new features coming in. Someone proposed rewriting DVR backend completely or using OpenFlow. And, I would prefer if we first get the testing right and then look at those
New features.
unsafe features. Yeah. So would it make sense for L3 sub-team to spend some time, like give priority to that and help? I don't know whether Brian is still going to look at that or.
Yeah, I still had that patch open. I just stopped it because it was too late in the cycle. I didn't want to have it merge and then the multi-node job stopped it.
Okay.
So yeah, we have this. We also have scenario jobs that are 100% failing because of multiple reasons. Some of them are DVR related. There are issues with the router migrations, and Anil is working on that. But again, would be nice to. Kuba was trying to pull some more people into getting the job to a good state where we could actually enable voting. But there were some emails on the thread, on the mailing list. But I think we're still, like, what's the state there, Kuba?
Oh, I know Armando picked one up for
On trunks, yeah.
on trunks. Anil is working on that migration stuff. But you have some patches.
Yeah, there are lots of patches from Anil's. I think it's again on L3 subteam because all of them are HA, DVR.
There was a QoS issue. It's not a good count. I was checking that. But there is like, the problem that sometimes it gets stuck or something.
It looks like it's stuck sometimes. It's very rare. In fact, most times it's passing and this test, but sometimes not.
You have a patch that adds some additional logging.
Yes, I'm trying to check. So
maybe we could get it in to get.
Do you have a link? We could post it there. But in general, yeah, those are like technical issues. But would be like my pitch here is more like let's make it a priority, like start of the cycle, let's say, to actually get the gate to the state where we always wanted it to see, have those jobs that are for a while failing into good shape, making them voting, reduce the number of jobs, as we discussed multiple times before, and then work on new features.
I agree.
So how can we make that happen? We have CI sub-team. It's actually like basically 3 people, maybe a bit more sometimes. All of them are from Red Hat. It's on Tuesdays after the bi-weekly meeting we have.
How important is reducing the job count at this point, now that there's a lot less review velocity or patch velocity? Is it a matter of just reduce the probability of a failure?
There's probability. Infra folks were asking us for a while about why like we generate so many logs. In general, like per job and also the number of jobs, why like, we have so much of them, and a lot of them are not voting, so why do we have them?
Mm-hmm.
So there's.
I mean, if we do fix the ones that are non-voting to voting,
you still have like 3 hours to get your change.
Yeah,
the length of time doesn't change.
Well,
Triple O blocks us more than any other job.
A lot of compute donors got away.
They're on the panel, but you're bound to the last one to finish.
Right, and Triple O jobs along is running on, right?
Yeah, but then at the end of the day, if you have lack of nodes and stuff gets queued, the patch can take longer than the longest one to run, right?
Yeah. But that's why I was wondering is that still relevant now that there's not really any.
Yeah, I still don't want to sit down and wait 5 hours for a patch to get validated in the gate personally, but I'm not doing much.
It doesn't take 5 hours. That's my point.
It does, because you don't get to test your patch. You don't get nodes right there and then. Stuff gets queued.
Maybe at the end of the cycle.
Okay.
It's usually not an issue. At least that I've seen recently, other than the end of the cycle crunch. That's why I don't know how much effort you want to spend on that if we can get them voting.
Well, removing jobs is not that hard as long as we know what we want to remove.
Just the effort is figuring out what.
I think we discussed it multiple times. Like we don't need that many flavors of grenade.
Yeah. The other thing,
Tempest DVR, Tempest DVR HA.
Yeah, and Tempest DVR HA. Once that's voting, then that can supersede the other DVR job. Is that the idea?
There's also a proposal to replace the non-DVR job with the DVR one in the integrated gates for everyone, so that we can get rid of one from integrated gate and one for ourselves. But
And the grenade, there was a proposal to do multi-node always for grenade, right?
yes,
What's happening with that?
That's a patch. I did.
Is that
I just put a link to it in the.
okay? That's the one that you're.
Yeah, basically it's the unit right. Multi-node would be the default.
Okay.
So, which might actually slow things down since multi-nodes take a little longer.
Yeah.
More realistic.
There are also some failures in one thing with respect to volume. So,
right.
Something same kind of failures.
Okay. QoS.
So let me ask a question. Were you suggesting earlier that the L3 team attends the CI meeting regularly?
well, if you have cycles, if you actually want to like help with getting it to a better state, then updates from you would be welcome. Yes.
Okay.
We have Brian there, so it's
So you attend? Okay.
yeah, but
You just
as long as Brian then can can come to you and tell that we have those issues, like let's do it together and get to a better place.
Yeah. Is it possible to just move the CI team meeting back into the regular Neutron team meeting?
We can do it. Well, we usually spend quite a lot of time actually discussing patches. Like we have lots of stuff.
Because the Neutron team meetings the last month or whatever have usually been pretty short.
Those usually like 45 minutes of actual discussions.
So
Clark shows up.
Yeah,
Random
we have lots of
Okay.
stuff.
Okay.
So
I don't know how the guy found it. It shows up in all meetings.
so to address this, how about we add a CI section in our meeting?
We can have like short.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
On Thursdays.
Because really the past
On Thursday?
weeks is really
No,
just what
what I'm saying is in the L3
Oh,
meeting,
in L3.
add a CI section.
That's cool.
yeah, because I've really only been bringing up this, get the multi-node job happy, and that's what we've been trying to do obviously the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, essentially the past 2 weeks, that's what we've been doing.
It came out of that, and so it's
Yeah, but let's formalize it.
oh yeah, sounds good.
So the other item is the Tempest plugin split. Did that get accepted for the Queen's goal? Is that what this? I assume since it's merged here, that must mean it landed. Oh yeah, I think I saw somebody propose a new repo. So
Don Kumar has volunteered to write. Oh, it's a global goal, so not for Neutron.
well, I saw a patch to governance. I think to add the repo for this for Neutron.
It's like
Oh yeah, it's right there. I don't think there's. Does anybody have any concerns about this? The basic idea is we just have a different repo that our API tests and scenario tests will live in that's branchless.
And we're responsible for it.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
already responsible for that anyway. It's just
Yeah, no, yes.
Yeah.
It's only that it's going to be a different repo, no?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And yeah, it won't have a stable branches or anything, so the idea the test should work against any Neutron
Right.
branch.
And that's for the APIs and all this.
Yeah, anything under our /Tempest tests.
Moves there.
Yeah.
The only concern is who is going to do that.
oh, Shantan is working.
In Neutron.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
he's working on
this patch already has the new cookie cutter.
I think he moved the code to this private repository.
Who's doing that?
Shantan Kumar.
Oh, okay.
RDO.
Okay.
I mean, there's a link to GitHub.
Yeah, for the initial clone.
So I think he already did some work on Neutron. But the code and put it.
Yeah, it looks like has like all of our API tests and everything in it already. So. Okay. Any other testing stuff? Or should we just start right on API?
Well, we should make full stack.
Yeah, full stack. It was 100% for a while. Recently, we made some progress, but there is currently a test trunk lifecycle failing because we start multiple edges and they don't know about existence of.
Oh, that are listening for the
peers.
OBS-DB
So
events?
they listen to all the events and start dropping ports, right? That's what it is. We have some proposals. But
And there is also a thing where we actually don't test the agents as they are in production, but we hack them. So it would be also good to think about how to get rid of these hacks in agents so we actually run the real production code.
we have our own DHCP agent because we need to make sure they don't create the same namespaces.
Yeah, the stuff to add all the
Yeah,
token
prefix.
things, yeah.
And I think also we have some DNS files. DHCP client.
But it works.
And L3 agent is also patched.
Sorry?
L3 agent is also patched somehow.
We could probably add something to like the agent itself of like a prefix option or something that the test framework can use that nobody in production would probably actually need, but I don't know if that really helps. At least it's not patching at that point.
There's another proposal to move, like, to implement host, which is like a full stack concept, as a name, like a namespace where you start all the agents. So they are totally isolated. So they create their own namespaces inside namespaces.
Yeah, we would use like nested.
And we actually do it for Linux version. Or yeah, so it works.
It doesn't spawn in namespaces, so it doesn't matter. But the agent itself doesn't create any namespace like agents does. But like the free agent creates QRouter, DHCP agent creates QDHCP.
But the DHCP agent, when it's used with Linux bridge, then it's found in this host something namespace.
No.
As far as I remember.
Yeah, and then inside it creates its own namespaces.
Yes, the nested namespace thing, when you're just using the IPNet nest command, even if you're inside a namespace, you still see the parent namespaces that are outside.
But do you get some RT knuckling error or something?
If you like try to exec one, or
Yeah, I think or at least it works like this when you run services in containers. Like you cannot access nested namespace from root namespace. Right, it acts like it's not there.
Permissions. So.
Let's see. So, IPNet exec. I see. Yeah, invalid argument.
But if we move all those services inside namespaces, then we will need to solve. We don't have a way to inspect devices that are inside second-order namespaces. We don't have support in IPLib for that.
But you don't need that for agents. You just need it for full stack tests.
Yes.
So you can use exec and do like IPNet exec something, IPNet exec.
By the way, I think it doesn't work this way. You should do something else.
What?
It didn't work this way, like not a mere chaining, like calling IP exec twice in a row, it doesn't do what doesn't work. Yeah.
And you still need the token thing because it looks like they're using the same like namespace pool of global names. Even the children here, because I can from the child namespace I can do IPNetNS list and I can see QDHCP which is outside.
Yes, the space is better.
Let's get this up here. Studio. Oops. This. Not theirs, but yeah, see, I can like see stuff while I'm inside a namespace. I can still see the list of other namespaces.
But you don't see the devices.
Yeah, but if you're running two DHCP agents, they're both going to try to create the same child namespace name.
What?
If you don't have that identifier thing at the front.
Anyway.
Yeah, so when you end up with this var run netness file.
And also one solves the issue that we have.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, make full stack coding.
This cycle.
Yeah.
An alternative that we discussed was there is a way to query for events that just belong to specific bridges.
Yeah, you were talking about the other night, right? That'll solve the trunk issue, right?
Yeah, I think it's actually like should be easier to implement. Yeah. But it requires change in the agent itself.
You can make the argument the agent should do that anyway, because right now it's listening for just all OBS.
So if there's anything else running on the same node.
Yeah.
What's happening?
In trunk, the OBS-DB listener is just kind of listening for every event. Yeah. What did I say?
It's not just trunk.
Yeah, the monitor that's running.
Is there any way you can filter down that traffic?
Yes, it seems like it. Thomas told us that you can construct a query, but you need to listen to like 2 different events and
yeah, basically you have an equivalent of with OBS-DB client monitor, which is monitor count, which allows you to add a condition, like a filter to which unfortunately, the table that we're currently monitoring is the interface table, and it doesn't have a column with the bridge name, so we cannot filter on the bridge name. We can monitor another table, which would be the bridge table. I think the ports table doesn't have a bridge name either. I think I checked. But we can look at the bridge table, which also has obviously it has a bridge name column, but it also has a ports column with the list of ports. So we could filter on the bridge name in this.
I think that was the reason why we chose interfaces in the very beginning.
Yeah, because it has all the details on the port number,
the IP's ID,
and the external IDs.
Yeah.
So we will need to monitor one table, but information in another.
So you end up making 2 lookups.
And actually, what I'm suggesting in the Launchpad, I'm sorry, I'm still jet lagged.
So take your time.
So what I'm suggesting is that we could do the reverse, is keep the same event monitoring, but filter it in Python code, optionally for full stack tests. Actually, the description I made in the Launchpad bug is more complete, but we could
like
filter events after receiving them from OBS-DB client, only to keep them for the relevant bridge. If we are in a context where we want to filter, and that would be passed along to this place via some agent configuration option that would be only used by full stack.
I think the issue we'll have there is we don't know which bridges are relevant.
I think we do. We only are interested in the ports coming up on your Neutron?
No, the trunk tests. Each VM gets its own bridge when you're doing the OVS trunking. And it's hard to tell which one belongs to that particular agent until you like do a query to the server to get the trunking.
Unless you name them based on the.
Well, they are named based on the trunk ID. Yeah, prefix of the trunk ID.
Yeah, but then at that point you have to ask the server first and.
So where's the is there a bug somewhere?
What happens is that each agent thinks that it's supposed to wire up that bridge.
It causes issues when you delete it. So, like, there's a race condition where you delete the trunk bridge or port, and the other agent will clean it up, and the correct agent will then fail because the trunk bridge disappears for him. Because the other agent.
Maybe we should just fix it so the agent doesn't try to clean up stuff that doesn't belong to it.
Well, you mean querying the server, asking whether this is this the trunk that I manage, or
doesn't it keep a list of trunks in the agent that it's managing?
So
or
is there a bug report about this? Because I'm not sure I fully understand what's going on.
It's full stack.
It's full stack.
Yeah, in full stack, when you have multiple agents on the same host, apparently they're both trying to clean up the trunk bridge when the trunk gets deleted, and that's leading to an error on the one that is supposed to pay attention.
And this isn't something that would happen in practice, though, right?
Right. It's just full stack.
It's not specific. So, is there any way? I mean, it's a bit of a hack, but the way it was done for the L3 framework, for testing L3 in full stack, we could, for instance, like inject an agent-based prefix in the trunk, in the way we generate the bridge name.
Yeah, so we just discussed this. Like,
Okay.
This was the topic that we discussed before, that we should get rid of those tags.
We already have this for the HCP and for L3, and
Yeah.
it means that we don't run the code that is.
No, but you run in the same code. Just
It's
that
almost,
there's a
but-
tiny, teeny like cookie on
Yeah,
the side of
the
it.
philosophy of the full stack you run what it's
You
an
do.
actual deployment. It's not.
But it isn't.
Well, it is.
No, because you're not deploying two agents on the same host. For trunk.
Yeah, but from the perspective of full stack, it's an isolated host. It's supposed to be like.
No, because there is no isolation given from you from OVS. If you can put OVS instances in a sandbox, then yes. Can you do that? Can you sandbox OVS instances?
Yes.
So that's the way to go. And leave the Neutron code alone.
There's a for sandboxing OVS. There's a tool in the OVS repo to do it, and Terry started doing it. I know I'm interrupting. But didn't you start writing some Python code to do OVS sandboxing?
Yeah, it exists. Yes.
So that also can help because it isolates the data path on kernel, so it doesn't use the data path on kernel while we use this for full stack testing.
But it would work if you ran it as root, right?
Right, but
Yeah, I mean, either you're going to have a data. If you want to me, isolating means not using the real data path. Otherwise, it's not isolated. So I don't know what your goal was.
Well, can you
sandbox OVS?
You would have like a parent OVS that would be like it's simulating your network switch or whatever, and then you'd wire all the like isolated ones up to that. Is that possible?
Like what I was experimenting with was to spawn multiple OVS-DB and OVS-vSwitchD processes, which is not namespace aware, but you can isolate it using the socket that it uses and the configuration for database that's created from the schema. So that's one option, but then you would need to implement some support to know where the agent should connect, like to which socket.
But you had that config option, right?
That would be the OVSD connection config option, right?
That's the management that you set for
OBS?
But there's a config option where you can just point to wherever you want to connect. So just give it a URL.
Yeah, and what I'm not sure is where you can have a manager for this OBS DB server when it runs on the same host, because OBS wasn't designed to run OBS DB, like multiple OBS DB servers on a single host.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
it's
something that I still don't know.
Yeah, you should be able to have different managers and different OBSDB servers, each running on different ports or different Unix objects or whatever. It should work.
I mean,
no,
what I was saying is that to me, the line here in flashy green that says "Are experimenting with isolation hack to see if we have better success rate" sounds to me is like the low-hanging fruit, because it doesn't sound like it's an awful lot of change. You could see how.
What is the isolation hack?
I think with adding the like a bridge for Trump. Yeah.
But the issue is the agent is deleting a bridge that already doesn't belong to it. Why would a prefix stop it?
Because each agent will have
You would filter.
So we still need the filtering.
Yeah.
In Python that he was talking.
No, no. Hang on. When the agent. So the delete logic, I'm gonna have to go and have a look at how it works, but it ends up deleting only bridges.
I think when you delete a VM, then libvirt will delete the port, the trunk device. That's called by the OBSDB handler. And,
so
the OBSDB handler then deletes the trunk.
Yeah, but when it deletes it, when does it check whether that belongs to it?
Apparently not,
because you would need to ask server whether this trunk ID.
Well, I mean, there may be metadata in the bridge. I don't know. I don't remember if we have that. Let's look. But okay, so what I'm thinking is that the sandboxing solution sounds like the most promising a long-term solution, because it enables.
It doesn't sound like it's fixing anything.
Why? Sandboxing, I think not prefix.
No, the sandboxing.
Not the isolation.
No, the sandboxing one.
Okay, yeah.
That one is the most.
The OBS sandbox.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it sounds
we cannot
like
use sandbox because we need data path, kernel data,
and that doesn't give
sandbox
you any.
Isolates that.
You can't wire up two separate sandbox things into a parent.
It's
not a sandbox.
If you have user space sandboxing, it's possible to do sandboxing of OBSDB and.
But we still need to get packets through kernel between.
Yeah, so you have your sandbox and you wire it up to a parent network that acts as like your fabric that you're simulating, the real physical network. So you have several sandboxed OBS things, one for each agent, and then some like parent kernel one that all of them plug into. That is like your physical fabric.
I mean,
so how do you just tunneling with this?
Same. Each one is going to have its own IP address in the sandbox, right? And it's wired up into some parent L2 network, and they would tunnel across to each other. If that works with OBS and it doesn't freak out.
And how would you test the local? If you have a fake VM on the same node, you would still need to do it somehow.
Are there two VMs on the same agent?
Yeah, like you have VRAs that exist in your sandbox. And you have attack devices attached to this VRA that you would like to get.
From where to where? Same, just across VRA. So you're saying OBS Sandbox just doesn't work for data plane at all?
Does it?
He's asking.
I mean, that's what I'm asking.
I know
it
that,
doesn't sound. It's not a sandbox. It's just broken OBS.
Russell, do you know?
No. It does work. It does have a data plane. It's just not the same one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the idea. Is you want
to be less efficient. But
you want completely isolated data planes.
I missed the question.
Does
Sandbox have a data plane?
It does, yeah. It's a user space data path if it's not hooked up to anything. So you have to like manually inject packets, and you can have the output of all of the interfaces go to a PCAP file. And we do that in our ODN test suite. It's all sandboxed, and we inject packets, and we have the output of every port go to a PCAP file, so we make sure packets go exactly where we expect them to go. But it's all, it's not using the Linux data path.
Oh, okay. So like if you hooked up two V pairs to one of these, you couldn't ping across it like normal?
No.
Oh.
And a V pair means you're using the Linux kernel data path.
But the issue that is the starting point of the discussion is not the data path issue. So.
Well, we still need the data path to work.
Yes, but if we had isolation of user space, obvious DB, this would be good enough to solve this issue.
Oh,
that.
Yeah, but wouldn't you solve other issues like having tests for other stuff, like pinging full stack VMs on the same node?
So by the way, I'm just looking at the code for trunk removal thingy, and we check that's a trunk bridge, and we can, we can add like an agent prefix here, and that would solve.
So
nice. Have I solved the problem for you?
Probably, yeah.
You want me to post the patch?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Give me a bug number.
It's in
the
EtherPub?
Well, that's not really solving it, is it?
No, it's
just doing the token hack thing.
Right, but if it's enough to get to a point that at least we've addressed the stability of the job, then sandboxing can be taken into account in a much larger, in a different frame. And see, I mean, ideally we do sandboxing, but we wouldn't do it while we have to firefight with the gate.
No, like we do bigger steps.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Changes to the agent just to support full stack.
Oh, I'm thinking that the changes involved are like should be 3 lines.
How's that prefix going to make it down into that function?
I'll think of something. If I think it's if it sucks, then I'll get back to
Configuration option of it is not exposed anywhere. We won't talk about it. We'll pretend it's not there.
It's just cause I think they have a hide this configuration.
Well, we can just
okay. Well, then let's
we'll mock it.
Whatever.
Can we mock it?
No,
I think no.
no, it's a local process. It's not there at all.
Well,
Still fine.
You start
and
something
don't use the
unmodified.
dummy interface option. I thought it did have a data path.
Well, let's figure that rest that off
Because
offline.
you're just running
So
server.
you will continue working on the.
Yes, that's my main goal.
Okay, all right.
Let's start talking about the API stuff because you have to leave after the Neutron picture, right, Akihiro?
Oh yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Thank you.
Here's another spot page. The link is there. There are several API-related topics, community goal things, and neutral sergeant topics, and so that API version. So the first one is the community goal, and Queens policy in code is one of the community goal in Queens. So the we need to move policy JSON into the code, Python code, and also policy generates policy default policy file from the code. So that it will be a JSON or YAML file. So there is it's a part on dedicated on the policy in the code in this PTG. There are some good examples on this.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like we did with configuration before, so we don't have.
Yeah, it is very similar to that, and there are some good examples, and Nova already did it, so that we can refer to them.
Okay.
So what we need is volunteers to work on this. Perhaps I can explore the initial.
I think there is a. I thought I remember somebody had posted an initial patch to do this in Neutron.
Oh.
And let me make a note to try to find that,
Yeah.
because I think it might have gotten abandoned. But let me at least look for it before we start over on it, because there might be an initial.
Is that because at the moment we didn't think it was relevant or what?
Well, I think it was somebody from Intel OSIC, and I think they went away and it like died with a -1 on it. Yeah.
It might be a good stuff.
Okay.
Obviously, you need to update the project goal on the governance OpenStack before. I think as TC manages the community code status in the some repository. So we need to update the status. Link. In the I added some link to the governance page. If you scroll down the page, there is a project team planning artifacts or completion artifacts. So,
okay.
So we need to post an update for each community goals. This is same thing we apply to the Tempest split Tempest plugins goal.
Okay.
Yep. Also, you can track the progress in the meeting. And if you need volunteers, it's called for volunteers in the meeting.
Okay. I just posted a link to the patch.
These patches.
For
okay,
somebody had done this before, and it looks like they just kind of stopped working on it.
Yeah, back in April. Okay.
So who's going to work on it?
Someone from AW Cloud.
No, I mean this cycle. Who's going to work on it?
Can you volunteer on that? No. So we need a volunteer to take over that then.
Well, actually, if I understand the goal process correctly, is first we should agree that this is a valid goal for us. It's not like TC just putting more stuff on us. If no one cares.
Yeah, unless this was done wrong, this patch looks like it's pretty close to being done already. But yeah, if nobody wants to do it, I guess you could push back.
So let's put it there for the time being. And, I'll follow up.
Okay.
Also, the next one is would that be whiskey?
Yeah, so I'll push up a patch for that.
Yeah. I think we already discussed in the Pike background.
Yeah.
Yeah, config file environment, looking up environment is a reasonable approach, and I think the Keystone or other grants
Oh, do they already
do the similar thing.
Okay.
I think. This is a simple one, and we like to address
Okay. Yeah.
in one or something. Next topic is migration of API definition to Neutron Div, and we discussed or we already discussed, and I'll create a part to check the progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's that Etherpad at?
I didn't create.
Oh, you haven't created it yet. Okay.
We'll create.
Okay.
So, any other stuff on related API stuff? API. Is there anything to discuss here related on API?
I don't think so.
Okay. This is now 3:15 or even more time. Okay. For the next one is API versioning topic. This is topic was discussed in the past several times. we failed to learn anything. So, but I think that now the only way to make some feature discoverable through the API is the extension, and we already have some sim or some sim extensions. Yeah, something like a tag or tag extension or tagging as well. I think we need some versioning way, some way to versioning the APIs. So I captured my rough idea to the Etherpad. One idea is to introduce versioning into individual extensions. So that, for example, if we like to change QoS extension, we can increment 1 to 0, 1 0 to 1 1 or something. And then we can define a Neutron API version as a collection of API version.
Of all the extensions?
The whole extension. So currently, Neutron API version now defines a whole set of API available in Neutron. It is even if some extension is disabled, API itself is defined, so that we can say that Neutron, for example, Neutron version 230 is defines this kind of set, and another version this kind of that kind of set. So this is a base idea, I think. So we now have API definitions in Neutron Div, so we can manage the whole set of API definitions.
So we'll have to keep the definition for each version in Neutron Lib, right? So we can convert between them as necessary.
Yeah. So one thing we need to care is how do we handle some experimental feature or something. Now we release Neutron Div. and then consume Neutron or other stadium project consume it to implement features. Because if someone want to add new feature, if someone want a new feature, we first release API definition, but at that time we cannot. I don't think it is not a good idea to bump Neutron version. So my idea is some experimental version, which means we don't care of such extension when calculating Neutron API version. The API layer can look up such extension, but such extension, but we don't care any version for them. It is something like what we have now.
Yeah. So any like non-versioned extensions wouldn't be part of the Neutron server version calculation, right?
Yeah, right. So for such extension, the current version is it has only one version. It changes something. It's visible to all API version. Once it becomes mature, we can bump the API version to 1.0 or something, or then Neutron API version take into account it.
Okay. So, would you be working on this?
No, I'd like to do this. There are many missing corner cases. I think I'd like to get consensus here. So rough consensus, and then if we do good, I'd like to write more detail as Neutron spec.
Okay.
I think the idea of having versioned extensions was brought up in the past, and the argument against it was that you kind of like not really addressing the fundamental flaws that extensions-based API has, which is, you know, that ultimately an API ends up being different from one cloud to another, and even though like your proposal ends up addressing the other, like a nuisance that introducing behavior backward compatible or otherwise would be solved by this.
Yeah,
it still wouldn't address the major point.
Major point of extension, third-party extension was
right.
Yeah.
That's one issue that I think we should recognize here. The other issue is that this is clearly not a single cycle effort. Right?
Single.
It's not an effort that could be started and finished within the context of a single cycle. It would definitely take more than one release to complete. And I would hate to have yet another half-finished thing in the tree. For whatever reason, people end up moving on, like 6 months down the line. So, I don't know, taking this, it almost feels like, when it comes to efforts that may span multiple cycles, we gotta, make sure that they are so fundamental and relevant for the life, for the health being of the project that it makes sense. And this one is particularly like impactful to just not Neutron alone. Like,
I think there are two ways of versioning. One is a micro versioning, which provides older version provides compatibility. backward compatibility, which Nova was in the do. Another approach is just version. Another approach is just versioning API, which is Keystone does. There is no micro versioning. Oh, we are 2.5 version 2.5 or something. This approach brings a backward compatibility problem during upgrade or some API servers.
It also doesn't solve our model that we have multiple implementations and they implement different things.
Yeah, the
Keystone doesn't have this one.
Such like bastard.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer perhaps it cannot be done in a single cycle.
Well, most certainly cannot. Right. And
so,
I mean, even if you worked day and night to put the code together, there wouldn't be enough review power for that to go through the gate. I mean, another idea that I was floating around was, okay, we start with, V3, start completely from a clean slate and start slowly adding functionality to do it. But that isn't appealing either, because no one ends up having, is incentivized to adopt the V3 API. But if nothing else, that is the lesser of the two evils, because even if he ends up being half complete, it doesn't do any harm because maybe there are consumers of that API, right? So at least I would address the concern that, okay, if we don't finish it,
we just scrap it.
We just scrap it, right? But then if you end up having, consumers of the API, then you've sort of screwed yourself. You shoot yourself in the foot. So yeah, I don't have a good answer, but deflect the whole thing and say, okay, just continue limping along.
Picture time.
Yep. Yeah. 3 minutes.
Let's go.
Don't we have to be there right at 3:30? Ready for the session?
You must have put this. I think so.
Yeah.
Where do we go?
Downstairs, just downstairs. To the lobby. To the entrance.
Which means if you leave them back up here, right?
Yeah, it is better to important thing.
What's the word? Stupid. Who cares? Are you there? Please drive me nuts because I'm like,
So I already updated the PTG thing. Okay.
Why wouldn't he be here?
No, he's not. It's just crazy.
Oh.
Who's this guy?
He's Kevin's lover.
Somebody in my dissertation committing.
No, you gotta prove it. Like, you gotta prove and merge it.
It needs 2 plus 2.
Useless. Useless.
What?
I'm not coming.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. That's rules.
Shut up. See, look how many tabs I have open. Look at that. Like, I've been busy. Look how many batches I've filed today.
Yeah, I like
my review dashboard has been lingering without no batches. So, I'm not coming. I'm on fire. I'm on fire.
No. Come on.
Kevin, what's your this photo from last time?
It's pretty dark sound. Back here.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Because there are thieves.
Thieves?
Yeah, thieves.
What are these thieves?
Remember what happened to what's his name? Brogade guy.
Oh, yeah, that was Paris. Yeah, but and in a lobby and all that. Oh man, what was his name?
Upper class?
Really? Oh, yeah.
What are your tabs?
Really?
So the maybe after you're getting 3 patches later. normal or change some current status and
the status doesn't actually do anything.
Oh,
I can change it if you want.
Well, you can change it.
Yeah. Maybe core review. Oh, I will do that. Only core reviewer can duplicate.
But the important thing is just it's finished or target. Milestone target or something.
Organization just
all the priority. I see.
Yeah, we can.
Most of the Japanese vendors.
You know, you don't have to only do periodic lamp. It's medium. You might say. Why do you do that? Just basically, you know.
Well, I see 3. See, I clicked this, and actually, I see like.
Yeah, I only do low and
I see multiple. If there are more than 2 that I can see.
I do.
I see. I said, what the running?
So, I mean, I would try the better answer for you.
Okay, wait.
And yeah.
So, no words.
Yeah. I think we can resuming the discussion. I think that we can keep if we keep the extension approach. So I think the current effort in Queens follows the current approach of extension or new small extension for new features. And in parallel, I think we can make change in the API layer or something so that and if some feature want to try, we can start the new approach for some specific plugin.
Okay.
Also, I think
data.
Once the framework has completed, so we can study on project can consume it. So I think we can do in incremental approach.
I don't know. I would be contrarian and say that oftentimes we are in the middle of something because we apply this iterative approach. Like with the client, some things are implemented in OSC, some in different client, and it actually complicates how you interact with the system. Extensions are not great, but at least it's consistent. Like you always check this, and if you start having some features implemented with the new approach, and you still have a lot of with the old stuff. Like, I don't know. I just feel oftentimes we don't complete things.
So it's other than us wanting to do this, are we under pressure to change our approach? Or
I know, yeah. No, I mean, no. It's something that we recognize it's not ideal. We've been limping along. Every time we gotta come up with a way to express behavior, we face palm ourselves. But between this, this status quo and something else, I think the status quo sounds like the one that it's most sensible to deal with. But I mean, the Neutron of today is not the Neutron of 3 years ago. And there may not even be that great deal of pressure in overhauling the API anymore. So if we look at the number of areas that we can devote our time and energy in, comes up as a high priority effort. I would say that it's not amongst the most
pressing things that we would need to address. I'd love to for it to, you know, first of all, I mean, it would have been nice if we had done it right in the first place, but
We weren't.
history.
We weren't. So if we went back to square number one, would we be micro versioning? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of a moot discussion. I mean, to me, ES point is also pretty, you know, resonates with me because, yeah, we don't want to get to a point where we are half and half. You know, some are versions, some aren't, and Mark is done. What's your take? What's your feeling?
I don't know. I'm looking. I don't know if it's doing it partially makes sense because then you still have to check for extensions as a user, and then you have to check extensions and versions.
This is a tricky point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it actually creates an interesting issue. I mean, let's see, that was, say, for instance, that we went down that path, wouldn't we complicate our lives to expose that type of API through OpenStack client? Because none of the OpenStack API behave like that. So we may end up like actually complicating our lives when adding support to OpenStack client. So say that we went down this route.
Say again, please.
If we went down the route of having per extension versions, it could be that we will need to make changes to the OpenStack client framework so that we can end up having to being capable of supporting this API scheme.
But the API user does not need to check extension version, I think. API user just check the Neutron version, API version, and extension list will be some kind of capability list, I think. For the I don't think we introduce a new way for its client in the clients.
So how would an API client, how is an API client, how does he know what behavior he's dealing with?
So I think
I mean,
during the migration phase, in the migration phase, user need to basically needs to check if extension is available or not, as we do now. So also we start versioning. So that, for example, QoS now, for example, version x.y. If you want to use QoS, then check the Neutron version. So the if some feature is disabled by operators, if user accesses some version.
So
No.
maybe if you showed on the Etherpad how URIs would change from the old approach to the new approach, maybe easier to visualize what I actually mean. Because when I was reading line 31, like introduce versioning into individual extensions.
Mm-hmm.
I understood that you effectively were adding like a version in the URI path after the extension prefix. That's how I understood it. Maybe if you show in the Etherpad examples of it, or ABI.
What I thought, what I think is just to add some internal field in the API definitions. So what users see is just Neutron API version.
And then, okay, I'm still not following. Oh, I see.
Have a whiteboard.
So the URI doesn't change.
Yeah, not changing.
So but then if the URI doesn't change and there's still a way to distinguish between versions on a per extension basis, then
Could you can let me clarify what URI needs?
Like the path to the resource. Like /v2 /routers /
v2.0 / networks or something.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So that in the micro version schema, API version is described as a HTTP header.
Right.
Yeah. So that I don't think I'm not thinking to change the URL itself.
So you would express the version still as a header?
Sure. I don't think you'd like to change if we 2.0. It is better to continue to use it. One difficult thing when Nova introduced the micro versioning, so that they use different endpoint once. So I do not follow the whole context of why they introduce a new endpoint GUI 2.1. I need to check the context, but I'm not thinking to change the current URL as now.
Okay, now I see now what how you were doing.
So I need to add more example, concrete example.
I mean, one way that we could so one thing that we could do, I mean, if nothing else, is to document this approach formally in the shape of a spec and keep it for the for future generations if they're keen enough to pick up the work. I mean, the thing is, we don't want we wouldn't want to have your effort and this discussion go to waste. So even though I'm not sure whether we will have the firepower to ever implement this, it would still be nice to capture this in something somewhat more formal than a plain Etherpad. But
etherpads don't seem to go anywhere anyhow. So we could. The difference is that at least in a more structured document, we have something that it's easier to read and understand for someone else to end up picking up the effort if really there is a desire to.
The only reason I use this about it, I just to clarify the approach is completely wrong or not was just from the only reason. I am planning to write a spec in a more spec.
I don't think that I personally don't feel like it's wrong. It's just that I don't. I mean, the concern is that we won't be able to finish it in time, and who knows, we may not have the resources to even tackle the problem end to end. And the other one is that ultimately you still haven't solved the existence of the extension problem that creates lack of portability across clouds. So you add the two concerns together, and then you ask yourself whether it's even worth going down the path of attempting to put, to start the effort at all. But yeah, you obviously, you're you know what you're doing, and I'm what you propose is reasonable.
In my understanding, if we want to remove the extension completely, we first need to support some versioning.
So what you're suggesting is that this is a intermediate step, is that what you're saying?
So I think so. I think that supporting extension or not is a bit different problem. Nova finally dropped the extension support in Pike. So I think that will be a different separate scene.
So what you're saying, let me understand if I understand. What you're saying is that 3 or 4 hours, or I don't know how many cycles ago, Nova was in the same situation with a bunch of extensions, and then they found a way to migrate to a micro versioning type of approach.
I think so. So, but the situation is a bit different. It's a bit different in Neutron case. In Neutron is a collection of stadium projects, so that we need some pluggable ways to implement the features. So now I don't think we can push extensions away completely. I think what we can is to prevent third-party extension. It might be able to do. But there is another different stakeholders for extensions. So, for example, NSX plugin implements different their own extensions or something. So, we need different discussion.
So how long would it take for you to put together a spec so we can have a continue this conversation?
So the goal in my mind is to introduce versioning, so that pushing extension away is a different topic.
Okay, so I understood that.
Yeah. So after I think this cell needs 2 cycles. One cycle to implement the basic framework. The next cycle we need to adopt actual plugin thing. At least I think it needs 2 cycles.
2 cycles
as a minimum. If the progress is good, we can start using consuming the new code in the next cycle. That is what I think now. We cannot block the new features in Queens by this effort. So that we need to explore how we can do it in parallel. So that's the reason I think it needs at least 2 cycles.
Okay. So, would a spec help?
I wonder if you just start with the RFE and get feedback also from the API working group to see if they think that this is even this mix of both extensions and versions is something that they think makes sense for users. I mean, it might make sense to us, but maybe it's just more confusing to people implementing clients and that kind of stuff.
That's Chris Dent, right?
Yeah, Chris Dent and whoever else.
Yeah, maybe we could get some guidance. Actually, I have to talk to him this week, so I'll bring this up. So yeah, let's move on.
Is there anything else?
Does that help?
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense. Also, I think to get the feedbacks from API SIG or other API starter, I need to write some more complete proposal, and so that they can understand what is proposed. Yeah.
That's all we had for today, is it?
It's so efficient.
Okay. So let's. We are going to do this all over again tomorrow at 9. Same room.
Yeah, same topic, same room.
You want to summarize what we've done for today?
No, you can see it on the Etherpad.
You want to share with us what you're going to do tomorrow?
Tomorrow, talk about reference implementation stuff, the OF interface deprecation, that kind of stuff, using OSVIP and the agents. Talk about DVR and L3 flavors. What we can do to make that useful for Dragonflow and others. ODL. And then floating IPs for routed networks to finish up the routed network stuff.
Yeah, I got it open in my tab. I want to review it.
There's a spec already.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Then we have a cross-project session with Nova from 1 to 3 after lunch. And then some Neutron interconnection stuff that Thomas proposed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that time good for you, Thomas?
Yes.
Okay.
And then
Make
last,
sure you drink lots of coffee between now and tomorrow, so that you can speak.
Or sleep until 3 p.m. tomorrow morning, and then you show
No,
up.
no, but you mean right now? Or not?
What?
Tomorrow? Early morning?
No, it's at
I
3.
was doing something else.
Okay.
Don't worry.
When?
3 p.m. tomorrow.
and then last but not.
I thought you were proposing a different time.
No.
Yeah. The time that you had changed last week is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, we'll lock people in the room until we have some more core members.
Alright, good luck with that.
And then the Neutron social is also tomorrow night.
Actually, that's not the difficult part. I mean, you can make everyone core.
But they have to do the reviews.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the locking in the
You
room.
can
and
make
then
core, but
review.
what would that do?
Right.
Because you were suggesting trial by combat.
You're not allowed out until you review every patch that's open against Neutron.
I see.
So if I sent an email to the distribution list, to the mailing list, if you are going to come to the social event tomorrow night, please confirm your attendance.
And it's mandatory.
No. I just want to have a more precise head count. Right now we have a reservation for 30 people, which I think is going to be plenty. But if I need to call the restaurant, I want to be able to do that.
Where did you post it? The dev list?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the subject. What was it?
Denver Team Fair.
Yeah.
And we have Neutron mascot speakers for your laptops if you are interested.
Oh,
Yeah, I'd like one of those.
Of course, yeah.
Grenade Martino.
Belly out.
No. It's it passed and now the log size is only 1.5 megs.
It's terrible.
Yeah, now that it's not constant updating back and forth.
It was like 5.
Yeah, or 4 or 3 something, which is pretty impressive for a lot of repeating text when it's because this is a gzip size.
Oh, there's timestamps.
Yeah, that's true. Some timestamps. But the only thing that was changed, well, I guess timestamp was changing and revision for the rest. Where are you going?
I'm just
Guys, cosplay engineering.
because he's gonna be here like in a month. Come on.
Well,
So networking.
Put -1 because you didn't have relief.
on what?
And at the bottom of your series.
The reach node. Oh, for the dropping the Do we want to release noted? Have we released noted the existence of that?
You remove an option.
Yeah, but I mean the option's never a operator. I don't think it ever worked in one version or the other. Actually switching it. The API is either broken in the old one or broken in the new one. Let me see if we've talked about it before.
You can check whether we mentioned it in deprecate.
Yeah, we did deprecate. So yeah, I'll release now.
It's using